Well, we're learning today that Jussie Smollett is expected to be held in protective custody while serving his sentence for lying to police about a hate crime. As we showed you yesterday here on ABC7, the former Empire actor sentenced to 5 months in jail, another 25 months probation, a $25,000 fine, and he must pay restitution to the city of Chicago. Our I-team been covering this case extensively over the last few years, and Chuck Gowdy joins us now for an I-team insider. Chuck, thanks for joining us again tonight.
Hi, Rob.
Smollett's sentence a surprise to anyone other than himself and his family. His siblings were livid last night, calling the judge names. Gil Sofer, our legal expert, didn't think there might be time served, but also said he wasn't surprised if there would be because this was such a high-profile case.
Anybody who followed this case listened to not only the arguments at trial, but realized that you had 12 people who reached a unanimous verdict. Shouldn't be surprised by the sentence that the judge laid out. I mean, maybe some of his comments were jarring and surprising to those who don't necessarily hear things like that play out in court, but the actual sentence of some kind of a penalty for an unrepentant defendant, even someone without a criminal record, shouldn't be much of a surprise.
You know, the lack of remorse was something the judge mentioned. You have covered decades of court cases, criminal, political, celebrity. Were you surprised at the length that the Judge James Lynn, went to before announcing his decision? It was like 30 minutes.
Well, he certainly took advantage of the hour with the 6 o'clock newscast just starting, and he certainly even made reference to the TV cameras that were present. He had a full audience watching him, and he had points that he wanted to make. Don't forget, this was an incident, a series of incidents, and a news story that gave Chicago terrible publicity and press for a long period of time a couple of years ago. And so the judge decided that this was going to be his opportunity to basically lay it out there and remind people not only of that, but that Jussie Smollett was the person who was responsible for this. And prior to laying the sentence out, he was going to make Smollett sit there and listen to what he had to say.
It was 3 years ago this month. Incredible to me to think 2019. 3 years ago this month, the I-team obtained the police records that revealed the entire Smollett scheme. And then it slowly played out over all these years. The I-team was getting so much information from different sources within the city of Chicago, the county, the government. You guys were getting a lot of information to kind of lead our viewers in the direction of what investigators were thinking about. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, you remember we had discussions about this almost from the very beginning of the Smollett case, long before there were public comments made by police and others that something didn't seem right, something felt off in the Smollett story. And there were so many police officers and then eventually prosecutors and others who just follow criminal justice in Chicago who were very angry about the way that this came down. And so maybe more so than normal, we had sources who were willing to give up documents. They were willing to talk about what they knew because they had an interest in making sure that the truth was coming out. And as Chicago was getting this terrible reputation around the world as being a place where walking down the street would result with a noose being around somebody's neck, they knew that that was not true and that they wanted to make sure that the real story came out.
I remember thinking two things reporting on the story. Either there are two men wearing MAGA hats attacking a gay man in downtown Chicago, or this Hollywood actor made it up. And so either one, no matter which direction it was going, was concerning to just us as reporters. We wanted the truth. The I-team wanted the truth. And you were hearing that from all of your sources as well?
Yeah, even in these times when that kind of an occurrence unfortunately could happen, the most likely scenario seemed to be a made-up story. There were just things that didn't make any sense. you know, the middle of the night kind of an encounter on a street corner where there are other people in what should be in full view of security cameras, although there were dark zones where if you knew where you were, it wouldn't necessarily be recorded. It just didn't add up from the start, and the police department, to their credit, and frequently the police department is the target of our investigations and reporting, but to their credit, they looked at this seriously from the get-go and ran down every potential lead to give Smollett the benefit of the doubt as a victim. It became overwhelming that the victim in this case was the public and those who were seeking the truth.
Eddie Johnson, if I remember correctly, got up in front of the cameras and said not only did he believe Jussie Smollett made this up, he also made reference to a letter that Jussie Smollett allegedly got at the studios here in Chicago, and it was a hate letter, essentially, using racial slurs and homophobic slurs. That case, what is going on with that case? That's a federal case, as I understand correctly, and what does the I-Team know about that?
Well, there was a federal investigation that was conducted both by the FBI and by the U.S. Postal Inspector's Office early on in the investigation that was a parallel investigation to what Chicago Police and the State's Attorney's Office had going at that time. The federal case we reported was fairly quickly resolved. They did not pursue federal charges in the case, and the latest that we're being told by the FBI is that they won't confirm or deny that there's still an investigation underway, which we would take as being nothing is going to happen in that, although it certainly could, and there's nothing to say that they couldn't relaunch an investigation looking that. But I think with Smollett locked up in the Cook County Jail, and with the legal problems just with that case, it's likely not to go anywhere on the federal level. And
I think that letter was sent in 2018, so like fall of 2018, so it's been going into 4 years on that. What are the complications, before we let you go tonight, in reporting a celebrity crime for the I-Team? Because you've reported on so many different crimes, both, as you mentioned, we investigate the Chicago police, we investigate some of the victims, and when it becomes a celebrity, does that change how you're sourcing the information you're getting or how we report it here on ABC7?
Well, there's high stakes in all of these cases. If it's a big enough crime to attract the attention of our team and ABC7, there are obviously some high stakes involved. And in this case, it was somebody who was publicly known, made a lot of money, could afford a big legal team, and at the same time, he had this public relations machine that was willing to throw, brass tacks out in the roadway every which way we went, trying to throw us off course. And so when you deal with an individual who has those kinds of resources, you really have to be careful about the information that is coming from their camp. And you also have to be careful that you're hearing the right thing from members of the public who call and say that they know something. Well, they may be associated with Jussie Smollett and people who are involved with his case. So it was very difficult. It's not the normal kind of a story that happens in Chicago. Sometimes we cover things involving high-profile athletes and others, but this was really something.
One last question for you. When we reported, we were the first of anyone to go on record and say that our sources are telling us that he potentially faked this crime, and it erupted on social media. As you mentioned, this is not something that happens in Chicago. There were Empire writers calling for my job, calling for ABC7 to be punished for reporting false information. Here we are 3 years later. Our sources were right, and Jussie Smollett is in jail. I know you can't reveal how we got to that point, but we had a lot of information coming from a lot of different sources that you have solidified over decades.
Well, of course, it's easy this far out to look at this and say, well, it was obvious what was happening at the time. But when you're in that moment, these are dicey decisions to be made. But this was not even a close call at that time. And we had so many people who were in high levels of power in the city of Chicago who knew exactly what they were looking at in this, who said, don't be swayed by that. This is not Jussie Smollett being the victim of what he claims to be a victim of. And so it became clear cut to us, and that's why we reported what we did back then. There was no doubt that this was going to play out the way that it did.
Yeah, Chuck, with the I-Team Insider, we like to crack that door just a little bit to look into how you and the I-Team do your work. We appreciate you sharing some insight tonight.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.